Hey there, guys. So I want to thank you, as always, for taking the time to check out this week's live stream. I know that it's been about a week since I've done the live streams, but it's been pretty crazy here recently. I was on vacation for about a week or so, and now I'm sort of getting back into the swing of things. Everything's kind of been all over the place, but slowly the routine is returning. So like this Wednesday and the upcoming Wednesdays, there will be a live stream, of course, at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, as we usually do. And of course, each week there is always a new topic that I discuss. If you're interested in checking out any of the other live streams that I've done in the past, I do have those archived to my YouTube channel, so you can definitely check those out there as well. If you want the link to that, feel free to let me know. But those live streams get archived. This will also get archived as well, where it'll be uploaded to my YouTube channel as well as my website and any other platform. It will stay here on the Facebook group, of course, but I usually try to keep them archived because after 30 days, the live streams won't be in the group. So that's like a Facebook policy right now. So if you're wanting to watch previous live streams, they will be uploaded to YouTube. I keep them archived as much as possible. So, with all that being said, guys, another thing I do want to mention is my website. It's here on screen, bponlinefitness.com. Definitely check that out. I did want to mention as well before we get started that I am still offering 40% off online fitness coaching, at least for the rest of the week. It's been extended. I extended the sale just for a short period of time. So if you're still interested, that offer is still available. So let's go ahead and get started, guys, with talking about today's topic, which is protein timing and why when you eat matters for muscle growth. So, if you subscribe to my email newsletter or my email list in general, this is a topic that I did discuss in the previous, a few weeks ago in that newsletter. However, I do want to expand upon that topic in today's live stream, where we're going to be going over various different points when it comes to protein timing. So, there's going to be a bunch of different topics discussed in this presentation. So, some of the points are going to be the science of muscle protein synthesis, 3 to 4 hour anabolic window, how overnight fasting affects muscle, pre workout protein, what to eat before, as well as post workout protein, how much is too much, and then protein distribution as well as protein timing. So, these are all the points that we're going to be going over today in this stream. So let's go ahead and start with the first topic, which is the science of muscle protein synthesis. If you watch any of my other live streams that I did previously over the past few weeks, I did touch a little bit on muscle protein synthesis, which is known as MPS. And this is basically the process into which muscles grow. So, this is the biological process where cells build new muscle proteins. This occurs in response to resistance training and, of course, protein intake. This is essential for muscle repair, recovery, and growth. So, muscle growth is what helps with the process. Now, there's also another term which is known as muscle protein breakdown, which is not a good thing. These are two opposite terms. Muscle protein breakdown is basically, of course, when you are lacking sufficient protein in your diet, as well as not training your muscles sufficiently to help aid in muscle growth. That's when we sort of go into muscle protein breakdown. So just know that you want to focus on muscle protein synthesis, which is helping with growth. And the way that you get that growth is through many different things. So, the goal of training and nutrition is to stimulate muscle protein synthesis consistently. So, what triggers MPS? Again, this is resistance training. Resistance training is the mechanical stress that activates that anabolic signaling, or also known as the motor pathway, as well as dietary protein, of course. This provides amino acids, especially leucine, which acts as a switch. So, leucine is one of the things that I've mentioned many times over, and this is a very essential sort of compound that helps with that muscle growth. And it's oftentimes found in, of course, proteins, as well as, amino acids that have, there are certain amino acids that have that specific component in them. So just know that when you're getting sufficient protein, that's going to help with aiding in that muscle growth. And the way that you get that sufficient protein, again, like I've mentioned before, is basing your body weight on how much you consume. So you roughly want to consume a pound of protein based on your body weight a day. So it's going to sort of range depending on what your goals are. So just note that that's the general guideline is to, you know, consume roughly a gram per pound of body weight each day for protein. So keep that in mind. So the 3 to 4 anabolic window. So this is something to be aware of when we're talking about really timing our protein intake and overall, diet and nutrition intake as well. So 3 to 4 hour period, there's a 3 to 4 hour period after a protein rich meal when muscle protein synthesis is maximally elevated. So driven by leucine trigger, this is 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine, which is roughly 20 to 40 grams of high quality protein. So again, keep in mind that leucine is often found in protein. So after 180 minutes, the muscle protein synthesis tapers, even if amino acids remain in the blood, creating an opportunity to re-stimulate, growth. So there's a window of time that is going to really help to maximize that sort of anabolic growth in the muscle. This can happen in the time when you finish a workout, and also in the sense that, in between meals, this can also happen. So when we're talking, one thing that you need to be aware of with this particular topic is in the past I've discussed a little bit about metabolism. And metabolism is sort of kind of the same concept here, somewhat different, of course, but you often hear people who don't, they try to lose fat by not consuming not consuming food throughout the day. But that in itself is preventing that sort of fat loss because your body needs that fuel. The more fuel it gets as you distribute your meals and your nutrition throughout the day, the more it's going to be able to keep your metabolism going. And this is kind of the same concept here when we're talking about the anabolic window. When we're keeping, those nutrients in our body is able to, of course, trigger that and to switch it into that muscle growth. So keep in mind too that you can't just consume any type of food, of course. You do need to be smart with the foods that you choose in order to help with the process of muscle growth. You need to make sure that you're focusing on quality foods. Again, quality proteins, lean meats, and this is like grilled chicken, and the same with your other macronutrients, such as, of course, complex carbs, as well as your healthy fats. Again, you have to have a good combination. You don't want to specifically focus on protein itself. However, of course, it is an essential part, especially when you're focusing on muscle gain. So just know that this anabolic window happens, you know, in a 3 to 4 hour period after a protein-rich meal. So make sure that you're still consuming, adequate nutrients throughout the day. So how overnight fasting affects muscle. So when it comes to overnight fasting, the hormonal landscape, 0 to 8 hours without food, the insulin goes down and your glycogen and cortisol will go up, which is going to shift your body towards fat and amino acid oxidation. So the growth hormone pulse first 90 minutes of deep sleep promotes fat release, but does not fully offset muscle breakdown overnight. So growth hormone, this is going to happen during deep sleep. And a lot of times we won't, deep sleep can kind of vary depending on, your overall sleep patterns. So your deep sleep is not going to be exactly the same, each and every night. So keep that in mind because it can be kind of sporadic in a way. I know that for me, my deep sleep, if you track your sleep, you're going to notice this more. You'll notice a difference in, you know, how you feel, the next day after you sleep. And when you track your sleep, it's going to help you sort of identify, sort of where you're lacking. And if you're lacking in a specific phase of that sleep, you can't really, of course, trigger those phases throughout the night. They just happen. But quality sleep is going to make a difference in, sort of the process of muscle gain. So the result here, continuing on here, like we mentioned during sleep, that insulin level is going down, glycogen cortisol is going up. So the result here is that the body taps into liver glycogen first and then blood amino acids to maintain glucose, which again, like we've discussed before, with glycogen, that's basically the energy process here. So does overnight catabolism harm gains? So throughout the night, of course, we're fasting. That's why when we eat in the morning, that's breaking the fast breakfast. So this is where we're talking about is overnight catabolism. Catabolism is the term where it's meaning that muscles are breaking down. Just know that again, I mean, there's all kinds of terms I mentioned here, but when we're talking about catabolism, just be aware that that is basically muscle breakdown. That's not what we want. We don't want muscle breakdown to happen, of course. That's going to prevent us from gaining muscle. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the term catabolism. So, in short term, a normal 7 to 9 hour fast overnight has minimal impact if total daily protein is met throughout the day. So, if you're consuming enough protein in your diet, again, keep in mind we're roughly 1 to 2 grams, you know, per pound based on body weight for protein. If you're consuming that throughout your day and you're getting, the maximum amount of protein that you need to get in your diet, then you're going to be fine. You're not going to have much of a, impact. It's not going to have much of an impact on your overall, protein intake or your overall process of gaining muscle. So, an extended fast, which would be roughly 12 hours, or a calorie deficit, this is going to lead to larger muscle protein breakdown, which is going to lead to lower morning strength and reduced training adaptations over time. So, when you're fasting a little bit, for an extended period of time, that can lead to muscle protein breakdown. And again, you're going to notice a sort of change in your strength as well as training adaptations. How you're training in your workouts is going to change as well. So, athletes with late evening workouts or toss a day training risk greater overnight losses. So, again, this is what's been shown when it comes to athletes. And just keep in mind that really there's not much you have to change here. If you're consuming, the proper amount of protein each day and you're getting roughly 7 to 9 hours, of sleep, which is going to be a fasting period, it's not really going to affect any of your muscle gains. But if you do sort of go further than that and you're fasting for an extended period of time, that can sort of make a difference. Again, like if you're fasting way beyond, when you wake up, like, 3 to 4 hours after, that could make a difference. But just keep that in mind that, a normal sleep pattern is going to be fine as long as you're consuming the proper amount of protein throughout the day, of course. So pre-workout protein. So why does protein matter before training? So amino acid primer. So this helps to raise blood essential amino acids, which is known as EAA, as well as leucine levels. So this helps to jumpstart your muscle protein synthesis process the moment you start lifting. This can also help to reduce muscle breakdown, again, MPB, circulating those amino acids to help buffer that muscle breakdown known as catabolism during hard sets. Steady energy, this is going to help too with keeping your energy steady. Protein plus the focus on friendly carbs, again, good carbs, is going to help level out glucose spikes as well as minimizing mid workout crashes. So, the best pre workout protein sources, of course, include whey isolate or hydrolysate. This is a fast, leucine rich sort of protein. Greek yogurt and honey, which is easy to moderate speed. So egg whites and fruit smoothie, whole food and quick to digest. And then vegan, this could be pea rice blend shake, which is a complete essential amino acid profile. So all of these are going to be really good options for pre-workout. And keep in mind, you're not consuming a huge meal. This is really light stuff that you're consuming before a workout. Again, it helps with, that muscle protein synthesis process throughout the workout, as well as, your energy levels at the same time, getting you ready for the workout. So post-workout protein and how much is too much. This is the big part that you really need to be aware of is your post-workout protein because after your workout is when a lot of the muscle growth happens. Because during your workouts, your muscles sort of break down. You're tearing those muscles throughout those workouts. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That's how the muscles actually grow back and they grow back stronger and bigger. So, with post workout protein, why it matters, it helps again to trigger that muscle protein synthesis, which is known as MPS. It also replenishes those amino acids lost during training. It enhances the muscle recovery and growth process, and of course, reduces muscle breakdown, known as catabolism. So, the best workout protein options, these are probably terms you've heard me talk about, or these are options you've heard me talk about before. A whey protein shake, which is fast digesting and high in leucine, grilled chicken and rice, egg whites and fruit, Greek yogurt and berries. Those are the best options when it comes to your post workout protein intake. So, this is best consumed within 30 to 90 minutes post training, and then MPS remains elevated for up to 3 to 4 hours, as mentioned previously. So, you're still going to get that benefit of the muscle protein synthesis even later in the day, but it can help a ton when you consume sufficient protein after your workouts to sort of jumpstart that process. So, sooner intake again is going to lead to faster recovery initiation. So, just keep that in mind. So, protein distribution fuels growth every day. So, like what I discussed, talking about at the beginning of this stream, where I said, when it comes to, distributing throughout the day in your meals, that makes a difference with your metabolism as well as your overall muscle growth. So again, why does this distribution of protein matter? So this helps again with the muscle protein synthesis spikes after each protein rich meal. So irregular intake can lead to missed opportunities for muscle repair and growth. So make sure that you're keeping your system active. That's what we really want to see is we want to get quality nutrients throughout the day. You don't have to consume really huge meals. It's all about distributing your nutrition throughout the day. Again, like you want to have like, a decent sized breakfast and then kind of have a small snack in between your breakfast and your lunch. And then you sort of repeat that process there. With your lunch, you would have your lunch, of course, and then you would go into your period of a snack and then your supper or dinner. So even spacing helps to keep that sustained anabolic environment. So that's what you want to focus on as much as possible is really making sure that you distribute your intake throughout the day with your nutrition. And this is not just completely talking about protein itself, but other nutrients also. So the optimal daily distribution. So spread intake 3 to 5 meals and snacks. Again, like I mentioned. And we're talking about when we have 3 to 5 meals and snacks, really what we're talking about, of course, is your morning, your breakfast, that's your one meal. You've got snack, that would be two. You've got lunch, that would be three. And then you've got another snack, which would be four. And then five, you would have your dinner. So that's basically how we're spreading that intake throughout the day. So each meal needs to really have roughly 20 to 40 grams of high quality protein. Again, you don't have to consume a major amount. If you maybe missed, say, enough protein intake for a specific meal, then, try to slowly make that up as you go throughout the day. Maybe have a higher protein snack to sort of make up for that meal. There's different things that you can do to really help to distribute that protein intake throughout the day. And if you're just getting started with this, keep in mind that, especially too, when I mention to my clients, is that you don't have to completely upend your life, your whole nutrition that you do now. What you need to do is slowly implement this into your existing routine. Slowly make changes into your routine in order to make this sustainable. Because in order to make a sustainable diet, you need to really build it around your current routine. You don't need to completely overhaul everything. You need to slowly integrate, you know, that, like, for example, if you're on an existing diet and it's you don't consume enough protein and you're trying to consume enough protein and you're not used to consuming a certain amount of protein, then slowly integrate it into your routine. Start with maybe breakfast. Okay, maybe I'm going to focus on eating a higher protein breakfast. And then get used to, having that higher protein breakfast. And then as you get adjusted for a few weeks, slowly add, higher protein intake in your lunch. That's how you build more of a sustainable habit. Because with a lot of people, whenever they focus on meal plans and diets, they want to completely overhaul their diet all at once, and that's not the way to have sustainable results and to have sustainable progress. You have to make sure that you have it integrated into your lifestyle and your routine as seamlessly as possible. Make it easy to implement instead of trying to switch everything over. That's what I always mention to my clients is it's better to just start with smaller habits and then let those build and let it become second nature as you get adjusted. So avoid large protein loads in just 1 to 2 meals. Again, that's another thing. Don't focus too much on having your protein intake in one meal. Distribute it. There's different snacks that you can consume. Greek yogurt is a good high protein snack. You could do anything like walnuts and things like that. You could also add, another snack would be, maybe like avocado. I know I'm talking about that's more of a fat there, but you can integrate those because we still need those macronutrients in there as well to sort of, again, even our distribution of, our intake, not just protein. So why does protein timing matter? Oh, another thing that you could add, of course, is like hard-boiled eggs. Anything like that, that's something that I used to use as a snack, um, as well as, something like, usually I would eat like the cubed cheese, something like that you can have. It's got a good high protein intake and it's a good snack as well. It's not something that's just, not an unhealthy snack. So that's what you mainly want to focus on. So why does protein timing matter? So key timing windows. So in the morning, again, with our breakfast, we're normally breaking that overnight fast. And this is going to jumpstart our muscle protein synthesis process. So you want to include, a decent amount of protein in that breakfast time, 25 to 30 grams of high quality protein. For a pre-workout, again, this is going to help fuel training and primes you for recovery at the same time. This is 20 to 30 grams of protein plus carbs as well for energy. For a post workout, within 1 to 2 hours after you finish your workout, rebuilds that muscle and enhances recovery when you include proper protein intake. And this is generally where you want to have, a decent amount of protein, a good amount of protein to really help jumpstart that muscle protein synthesis process, which is roughly 20 to 40 grams of fast digesting protein. Again, keep in mind that fast digesting protein is going to be, in the same vein as when we're talking about whey protein. Also include some healthy carbs in your diet, complex based carbs that can help as well. That also helps to sustain more energy throughout the day as well. So in the evening or before bed, supporting overnight recovery, if you want to, sort of add, some protein intake towards the end of your day or to help with, distributing protein throughout the night, you can consume casein. Casein protein is a slower digesting protein that can help you get your protein intake if you may have, sort of missed a little bit throughout the day, and helps you consume that at night. It won't hurt your stomach because it's more slower digesting. So it'll sort of distribute that intake throughout the night. The same with anything like cottage cheese and Greek yogurt. Those are all going to be other good options for that overnight sort of muscle recovery process. Alrighty, guys. So that's all I have for you today. I know that there was a bunch of different points I went over here, and there's a lot to keep in mind. But again, guys, like I mentioned at the beginning, or like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, it's really important that you just focus on, making these slow changes, making gradual changes in your diet in order to implement a healthier, routine. That's really how it works. It's not about upending everything in your existing diet. It's about integrating slowly into a more healthier diet. That's how you have more sustainable results. So I've got my contact information here on screen, as well as my website, bponlinefitness.com. I do have an Instagram page, which I have on here, where my username is Brandon SP Fit. You can check that out, and I do have a Threads account as well under the same name. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at any of these. Any of these, if you want to, contact by phone or email, reach out that way. Or of course, you can leave a comment on this stream as well. Again, this will be uploaded to YouTube as well as my website, so definitely check it out there. Of course, if you missed it, if you're interested in watching live next time, there will be another live stream next Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Feel free to reach out and ask questions on these streams. They're open for you to ask questions as well. So thank you guys once again. Again, reach out if you have any questions. And I will have that next live stream event uploaded soon, so definitely check that out. But thank you guys once again for taking the time to check this live stream out. And I hope you found it helpful and valuable. I'll see you next time in the next